Hi, it's me, Brody. I've had a pretty shit day today and I'm really bored. I was on Facebook, right, and this thing popped up, and like the Meta AI question thing underneath was like, who is this random dude? Like, I didn't know his name. And so I clicked on it, and it's this really interesting criminologist. I've got a bit of a broad view on crime. There are a lot of things, not everything illegal is wrong, and not everything wrong is illegal. I don't know what other trite quotes can I trot out. Some of the worst crimes in history have been committed by people who were obeying the rules rather than disobeying them. There's a great one, right, about crime. And I think it was like Voltaire or something, but it's not. It's like, I don't know, or like Schopenhauer or Descartes or something. Anyway, I can't find it on the internet. I've tried, and I can't remember it exactly. But the quote is that using the law to determine right from wrong is a bit like looking at a perfect circle and questioning whether the angles add up to 360 because you don't have a protractor. You don't need to measure a perfect circle or an equilateral triangle or a square, perfect square, to see that, there are some things we just know are wrong. I've got quite a lot of kind of interest in making the world a better place, but I would never ever work for the British police force. And I think one of the worst things about sort of crime is prohibition of illegal drugs. Like, I used to sell drugs, and I love taking them, and almost everyone I know loves taking them too, and I think that they should be legal and available for everybody. And it's a very sort of moot point with me. I'll leave it. There's this really good talk with Richard Branson and like the president of Colombia, and it's like put some really good arguments for the legalization and illegalization of narcotics. And probably, although you might have strong opinions on prohibition, it's worth giving it a look, because it's like, whether you're pro or against, it will probably give you some interesting sort of calculated rationales, whichever your opinion is. I don't know, it's like if people say, like, I think that meth should be legal, like, would you like your, oh fuck, do you think that vulnerable people should be able to go to Tesco's and buy crystal meth? And it's like, I've never taken crystal meth, but like, if you look at the before and after pictures of people who have, it doesn't look like very nice stuff to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, but if I'm on, I've never taken heroin either, ever in my life. But, I still think that probably both those things, as perverse as it might sound, would be better if they were not punishable by crime. There's like quite an interesting, well, quite harrowing really sort of situation. If you watch any documentaries on Oregon in the United States, so in Oregon, like Portugal and Amsterdam have decriminalised drugs, right? So you can like smoke a joint or sniff a line or like, kind of do whatever you want basically in public, and the police won't stop you and arrest you. They might move you on if you're like injecting outside of a cafe or something, but like, it's decriminalised, so they're not looking to prosecute users or like, low level suppliers even, and that's like a good thing. But I just it's pretty shocking. Like, what's happened in Oregon is that the whole social, like, it was democratically voted in, okay, right? So they decriminalised drugs in an American state, Oregon. Just Google it, and unlike Portugal and Amsterdam or Holland, the Netherlands, sorry, where it's worked really well, there hasn't been like an increase in drug-related violence or use per capita much, or sort of harm, or fatalities, but it's resulted in a more cohesive and peaceful community, and like an intelligent security and policing model, which means that the security services can focus on actually like bad people rather than people just trying to help others have a good time by altering the state of mind in a peaceful way without harming anybody. Do you know what I mean? So this criminologist dude is really interesting. There's a really bait picture of me in the corner. I took that this morning when I just woken up, but I don't know, just ignore that. Here is my shitty bit of reading for today. It's 10 to 9 and I've got 29% battery left, so I'll have to make it quite good really, maybe quite quick. So this guy I stumbled across is called Federico Varese, who's an intellectual criminologist, and he's had some very interesting work experience. I don't think I would want to work necessarily in fighting crime because it's very, very dangerous, but I do have quite a good mind on me, and I do think that in some ways, from some perspectives, I could maybe help people. Like my mum worked in medicine. She was a third year nursing student when she passed away. She wanted to help people too. I don't think I'm really cut out for medicine or the NHS or like treatment. I don't think I could be a doctor. I used to want to be a lawyer for like 5 minutes. I wanted to be an actor too. And I don't know about, criminology, or like it's very dangerous, that there's like a charity for called police care or something. Not that I'm like pro, Babylon, whatever, like don't get the wrong end of the stick, but people who, I met this dude a few months ago, and his son was like an armed police officer, and he was telling me about how he has to live like a really private life. He can't have like any social media, and like nobody can know his address, and it's like he just lives in a normal house with his missus and his kids, and it's like if you go and rustle the feathers of somebody who's worth quite a lot of money, then that can be really dangerous, and like anonymity and discretion is really important, and it like governs their entire life. I don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could ever put my head over the parapet that far, but there are some things which go on in society that are really cruel and unfair, and there's only so many people who can perceive it or have got the kind of skill set or the intellect. I don't know if I do. I mean, I don't have any fucking GCSEs, do you know what I mean? Like I'm not qualified. I wouldn't want to work, I would only ever work independently. It says it says I'm a private investigator on my Facebook profile, but I'm not. I spent a long time trying to prove outbound phone call hacking was real, and I had a free phone call recording app on my phone, and I used to put them all onto YouTube with write-ups and stuff, and then ironically a criminal stole the account. But anyway, I'll read you about this Federico Varese. It's very interesting. Wait a second. Just a staff coming to do my observations at 8:56. Executive summary defining Federico Varese. Federico Varese is one of the world's foremost academic authorities on the sociology of organised crime. He's a professor and criminologist whose work is defined by the systematic, empirical study of criminal organisations, particularly mafias, as rational, economic and political actors. His central intellectual project has been to move the study of organised crime away from sensationalist portrayals and toward a rigorous analysis of these groups as entities that provide extra-legal governance in social and economic spaces where the state is absent, inefficient or has collapsed. His international standing is reflected in his primary academic appointments. Since February 2023, he's been a professor of sociology at Sciences Po in Paris, based at the Centre for European Studies and Comparative Politics. This role is held concurrently with his long-standing affiliations at the University of Oxford, where he remains an Associate Senior Research Fellow and a Senior Research Fellow at the prestigious Nuffield College, or Nuffield College as pronounced. The unique quality of Varèse's work, which has earned him widespread acclaim, was perhaps best summarised by the novelist Jean Le Carre. Le Carre described Varèse as two writers rolled into one, a fearless fact hunter who goes after his quarry with the zeal of a thoroughbred journalist, and a dedicated academic who examines and analyses his catch with relentless detachment. This fusion, deep empirical investigation and high-level social theory, defines his contribution to criminology. The strategic sciences at, I don't know if that's P.O. or PO, I don't know how that's pronounced, Oxford Axis. Anyway, Varèse's academic transition in 2023 is not a simple relocation, but a significant strategic positioning that underscores his leadership in the field. He moved to Sciences, PO, whatever, a premier European institution for the social sciences, after reaching the apex of his career at Oxford, where he'd been elected head of the Department of Sociology for the 2021 to 2023 term. This move is inextricably linked to his success in securing one of Europe's most prestigious research awards, a European Research Council Advanced Grant. This grant funds his career-defining CrimGov project, which studies criminal organisations through their production, trade and governance activities. The project itself is explicitly co-hosted by both Sciences PO and the University of Oxford. This dual affiliation structure represents a powerful UK-EU academic bridge. By basing his primary professorship in Paris, Varèse ensures the stability and integration of his major European funded project within the EU's institutional framework, while simultaneously retaining the resources, influence and fellowship status of Nuffield College and the University of Oxford. This structure solidifies its leadership of a research network spanning both the Anglophone and continental academic worlds, perfectly positioning him to execute the ambitious global-facing CrimGov project. Hopefully not, getting executed himself. I mean, this guy must have balls of steel. Academic foundation and career trajectory. So, educational pedigree. Federico Varèse's transnational and comparative approach to criminology is rooted in his elite European academic training. He holds degrees from three of the continent's most distinguished universities, Bologna University, Cambridge and Oxford, so very well qualified. His foundational degree in political science from the University of Bologna is subsequently moved to the United Kingdom, where he completed his doctoral work at the University of Oxford, and he got a DPhil in sociology in 1997. He's been doing this for a fucking long time. Academic career progression. So Varèse's career was marked by high status appointments from its inception. Following his doctorate, he was awarded a prize research fellowship at Nuffield College, Oxford. This fellowship is highly competitive and prestigious postdoctoral position reserved for a small number of exceptional scholars. His early career also included significant international exposure, which laid the groundwork for his later comparative studies. He served as an assistant professor of sociology at Williams College in the United States and as the William H. Orrick visiting professor at Yale University. He also held visiting professorships at the City University of Hong Kong and Milan University. His permanent academic home became the University of Oxford, which he joined in 2003, where he was awarded the title of Professor of Criminology in 2006. He was based in the Department of Sociology at Oxford. Varèse was not just a professor, but a central figure in building the university's criminological research infrastructure. His institutional roles included serving as a director of the Extra Legal Governance Institute, a research associate of the Centre of Criminology, and his ongoing career-long affiliation as a senior research fellow at Nuffield College. His leadership was formally recognised with his election as head of the Department of Sociology for a couple of years, position which he held until his strategic move to Sciences. So the intellectual core, a new framework for understanding mafia. Like, trying to go up against the mafia is probably, it's like Darwin Award level career. Like, I mean, I don't know how anybody, I don't know, like, I've kind of went up against the telecoms companies, like, the outbound phone call hacking is possible. There's loads of references to it in the media. If you ask the phone shop, go to Vodafone or EE or Three or anywhere, they'll tell you there's absolutely no way that if you make an outbound telephone call from your mobile, anybody, fuck off Russell Brand, Sorry, mate, I didn't mean that, but I mean, watch later. It's like it is possible. Basically, it only happens in high value criminology situations, but it is possible. There are people who, are worth 50 mil, 100 mil, 300 mil, who sit on their yachts in Monaco and use their iPhone 15 or whatever to phone like their, important coots, fucking manager and that sort of stuff. And they are just sure, like, if someone phones them and says, give us your bank details, they'll be like, no, this could be anybody. Do you know what I mean? But like, people who are like not really connected to criminality or like hacking or stuff don't really have any concept of it. It's I mean, but it's really dangerous. I mean, telecoms organisations are worth fucking fortune, and the evidence I had in like between 2015 and 2018 kind of made the people who make phones, like Samsung and Apple and Motorola and all those guys, look like cunts, and also the people who run the operating systems, right? So that's like Android and iOS predominantly, which are kind of sort of independent of the phone manufacturers, and the network operators, because they are running a network where like you could phone out to speak to somebody and it could literally be anybody. It happens it's very rare, but it is possible, and it does happen occasionally. And then you've got the security services. Like, it really, for me, as a completely uneducated, like fucking nobody living, with like a shitty smartphone with a free call recording app, it just so happened that loads of my calls were being hacked, and I managed to amass like quite a lot of evidence, and I think that put me in danger as well. Like, it was like, a lot of them were like calls to the police, and they were getting redirected. And I tried to go to the police about it a few times, and they were just like told me to fuck off and looked really like they were sweating spinal fluid. Like, I went to my bank manager at Barclays Bank, David Pod, and I was like, I went for a meeting in their Armada Way branch in Plymouth, and he like, first of all, I didn't meet him initially. I met like a banking advisor, and I had this rucksack, and I was like, look, I've got like hacked, I've got fraudulent emails, recorded telephones. Like, you can keep the phone, like, if you need to prove this. I tried to phone Barclays Bank, and the calls have been getting hacked, and the first guy was like, this is above my pay grade, I can't do anything about this, like, speak to the assistant manager. So I sat down with this woman, sat at her desk for like 20 minutes, just gave her the same pitch. She was just like, this is like, you'd have to speak to the manager. I got into the manager's office, and he'd already like was looking like the guy fucking knows what I'm talking about, and he's acting really evasive, and he's being really circumspect and kind of serpentine about his like manner and the way he's talking to me. And I said, look, man, I've got like loads of DVDs and CDs and an external hard drive like thing that you can put these onto. I've got USBs. I've got a laptop full of like high definition audio files with software, like the TouchWiz software on Samsung phones, and the itemised phone bill from my 3 contract, which again went missing in 2018, along with like 4 years of investigative work surrounding mainly cybercrime on hacked phone calls. And I was like, I made some slight. He was like, so what's the problem then? And don't waste my time. And I was like, well, okay, so these guys are hacking my outbound phone calls. And he was like, well, that can't be, you can't just hack an outbound phone call. I mean, how would somebody know? They must have their own dedicated call center. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they do actually, bruv. That is exactly how it is. And I said to him, once I started to get a bit irate because he was being really dismissive, negating what I was saying, I was like, these are clowns putting on Punjabi accents. And then he was like capitalised on that and just gaslit the fuck out of me and was just like, what are you saying? Like, what? Like, you can't say that about my colleagues. I said, no, bruv, I'm not saying this about your colleagues. Let me make this unequivocally clear. I'm saying that these, like, you can tell they're British people putting on accents as if they're in like Mumbai or Hyderabad or whatever, and you can hear it. It's blatant. Like, listen to the recordings. Like, you know, they're defrauding me and you, and you know that's a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like that. So, and he was like, "No, you're a racist." I was like, "No, I'm not fucking racist." I said they're clowns putting on Punjabi accents. So, you can't call my colleagues Punjabi clowns. That's disgusting. Fucking prejudice. Raw. Get out of my office. Or I'm going to call the police. I'm fucking, you know, you can't bank with us anymore. And like, and it was, you know, it was just like fucking ridiculous. And that's exactly what happened. I've got the video somewhere on one of my hard drives. I haven't got it in the hospital here with me, but like, yeah, like, he just escorted me downstairs in this Plymouth Barclays and got to the bottom of the stairs, and I was like filming him with my S8, and I had my S6, which I was going to hand into him along with like DVDs and USBs and hard drives, whatever they wanted, like, and the document forgeries as well. Got through the post, and he just had this like really, there's this footage of him stood at the bottom of the stairs, and he's like, I'm asking him like rational questions, politely, succinctly, like well kind of constructive criticisms of his rationale, and like, and I'd recorded the whole thing as well. I'd had like, I was taking a voice note of it, which at the time in like, this was in like 2017, 2017, I had two phones, had an S6 and an S8, not because I'm dodgy, but just because I used to use one to do the metadata of these like hacked phone calls. So I'd put one phone on a tripod, like I got this one on, and then like a phone holder, and then I'd get a second phone, film the screen so that I could show the properties of the audio file, which had been created within the free call recording app, then match that up with the software showing the call length, so that it, you know, it, like, otherwise it's just an audio file of a conversation, which then match up with the itemized phone bill, then match up with the GPS to show where I was at the time. And after a while it was like, I'm a lonely guy, you know, who's just lost his mum. My brother had moved to Bristol. I was just rattling around this house in a small village called Buckfastleigh in South Devon in the UK, and with like a, you know, broken Acer Aspire touchscreen laptop and a Chihuahua and like two mobile phones and a fucking mental illness. And it was like, I've got no technical knowledge. Like, I don't know fucking anything about cyber fraud or cyber crime or telecoms or I was, you know, completely novice. And like, he had like his attitude. If you could see this, I've got this file somewhere. I'll try and dig it out. Like, you know, he was just like non-responsive and stood at the bottom of this staircase like a kind of somebody who was in a compromised position. He probably earns 150 grand a year, but this was like bigger than him, you know. It was like, you know, they're not, people at the bank aren't there to take on crime. I don't think I particularly want to get my fucking head chopped off or blown off or whatever, like, by trying to take out any mafia or organised criminal network. But I'm interested that this guy has done that. And like, I have tried in the past, you know, to prove crime, and hasn't always worked. And that's presented to me as an injustice. And I wonder like how many other people, like, I knew it was happening, and it was happening to me a lot. And I was in a position to like collate a lot of evidence, but not everybody else is. Like, some people don't know about shit like that, and it goes on. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's like the crown jewel of organised criminal fraud. And yeah, I could run you through some references in films and TV and music. I might do another video on that, but I'm just going to read this now because we've been waffling for 25 minutes. So, new framework for understanding mafia. So, Federico Veressa's academic reputation is built on a series of foundational monographs that have systematically redefined the scholarly understanding of mafia organisations. These books are not isolated studies but form a coherent, multi-decade intellectual project. The following table provides a high-level map of this project's evolution, from defining the mafia's function to analysing its mechanisms of expansion, finally its lived human experience. So I'll just let you read that table when I put this as a Google Docs. I can't be fucked with any of that. The private protection thesis, Russian mafia. So in his first field-defining book, The Russian Mafia, Private Protection in a New Market Economy, 2001, sounds like a dangerous publication, presented a groundbreaking thesis that provided a new analytical lens for the phenomenon. The theoretical groundwork for his book was laid in his highly cited 1994 article, Is Sicily the Future of Russia? Private Protection and the Rise of the Russian Mafia. Now, the book's central argument is that the mafia is at its core an economic and governance entity. So Varese defines mafia's primary function as privatisation of protection. He argued that transition to the market in post-Soviet Russia caused the state to collapse, leaving it incapable of enforcing contracts, protecting property rights or mediating disputes. This created a governance vacuum. Criminal organisations stepped into this vacuum. So Varese's work showed that these groups didn't merely loot, they began to sell protection and dispute resolution to new businesses, effectively creating a form of extra-legal governance. The book's power stems from its empirical richness, specifically the elaborate case study of the city of Perm. Here, Varese deployed his fact hunter methodology, using police records, interviews, and deep archival work to ground his high-level theory in verifiable facts. This seminal work was co-recipient of the Ed A. Hewitt Book Prize from the American Association for the Advancement of Slavic Studies, establishing Varese as a leading scholar in the field. So, the transplantation model, Mafias on the Move. In his second major work, Mafias on the Move, How Organised Crime Conquers New Territories, 10 years later than his last book, Varese directly challenged the popular post-9/11 narrative of organised crime as a global virus that was effortlessly conquering new territories through globalisation. So, argue that on the contrary, the mafia expansion is difficult, often unwilling. For example, members fleeing law enforcement in their home country, more likely to fail than succeed. His transplantation thesis posits that a mafia can only successfully take root in a new territory if a specific set of social or local conditions are met. There must be a sudden market expansion that's neither exploited by local rivals nor blocked by authorities. In short, there must be a failure of local state governance that creates a demand for the mafia's specific product, extra legal protection and governance. The brilliance of the book's methodology lies in its matched comparison. So Varese examines why Sicilian mafia successfully transplanted to New York City in the early 20th century, but failed to find a niche in Rosario, Argentina at the same time. He asked, or posited again, why the Russian mafia failed to penetrate Rome, but did succeed in the nation of Hungary. So, in addition to that, the mechanisms behind the Calabrese Drangheta's move to northern Italy. This nuanced thesis redirected scholarly thinking on globalisation and crime and earned Varese the 2012 Outstanding Publication Award from the International Association for the Study of Organised Crime. The Anthropological Lens, Mafia Life, Varese's third monograph, Mafia Life, Love, Death and Money at the Heart of Organised Crime, 2018, marks a significant methodological and tonal shift. Having established what the mafia is, a governance provider, and how it spreads via transplantation, Varese turned his attention to micro-sociological and anthropological question of who the mafioso is. This book seeks to understand the lived reality of mafia members, exploring their loves, fears, ambitions, disappointments, and crimes. It's a work of demystification, painting a ground-up portrait that shatters the cinematic myth. The Varese reveals a world populated not by Superman, but by Supermen, but individuals who worry about bad managers and high blood pressure, and where assassinations are bungled as often as they succeed. This is where Varese's fearless fact hunter persona is most evident. He mixes reportage with case studies, drawing on wiretap conversations, interviews, and previously unpublished police record. His research for the book involved infiltrating initiation ceremonies from Russia to England and visiting exclusive gambling clubs in Macau and mafia summits in luxury hotels in Dubai. Collectively, these three books form a cohesive 20-year intellectual project. Varese first built a theoretical model of the mafia as a rational, extra-legal state, the Russian mafia. He then tested the model's limits and mechanisms of expansion using comparative history, Mafias on the Move. Finally, he provided the ground truth ethnography of what life is like for the individuals inside that governance system. So mafia life. From Soviet history to digital governance. So Varèse's more recent work represents a critical application and expansion of its core governance theories. He's extended his framework to analyse complete evolution of post-Soviet state and how to build a new taxonomy of understanding all forms of organised crime, including those in the digital realm. The post-Soviet trajectory, Russia in 4 Criminals. Varèse's 2024 book, Russia in 4 Criminals, serves as a powerful capstone to his decades of research on Russia. The book's innovative structure uses 4 biographical portraits, archetypes as lenses, or archetypes as lenses through which to view the seismic shift from the Soviet era to the Putin regime. The 4 figures are the mobster, Yaponchik Ivanov, a prominent traditional thief in law from the Soviet era, Boris Berezovsky, the mathematician turned tycoon who exemplified the fusion of wealth and power and politics in the 90s. Sergei Savyulev, the whistleblower exposed to systematic torture within Russian modern prison system, and cybercriminal Nikita Kuzmin, creator of the infamous Gozi virus, representing the new digital frontier of Russian crime. This book marks a significant intellectual pivot from his earlier work, The Russian Mafia 2001, 10 years before, which studied criminals who operated outside the state in the absence of the state. Russia in 4 Criminals 2024 last year studies a system where criminals and the state are fused. The central theme is the unholy alliance between crime and politics has come to define modern Russia. By placing an oligarch, Berezovsky, and a cybercriminal, Kuzmin, on the same analytical plane as a traditional mobster, Ivankov, Varèse makes a profound argument. The Russian state itself has evolved into a form of criminal enterprise that uses oligarchs to control resources and freelance criminals to carry out operations, from cyber attacks to assassinations. The book is a concise, scholarly political statement, arguing that the West's failure to recognise this violent transition has led directly to the grim reality of the present. Research themes and the Krimgov capstone. So beyond his core work on the Mafia, Varèse has applied his governance framework to a diverse range of subjects, demonstrating the theory's robust Soviet criminal history, the origins, social structure of the Fori Visakon, or thieves in law, and also Somali pirates, analysed not as simple banditry, but a form of state building and informal governance on the high seas. They do a lot of piracy, those guys. I see it in the news a lot. Co-authoring papers such as Offline and Local, The Hidden Faces of Cybercrime. He studies cybercrime markets and hubs, as well as social dynamics, exploring topics like altruism, such as the 2000 paper, The Importance of Being Asked, The Rescues of Jews in Nazi Europe. Methodology is a key component of applying social network analysis to criminology to map and understand criminal structure. The diverse research programme culminates in his current ERC-funded Krimgov project. This project is Varèse's attempt to build a grand unified theory for this field. Its premise is the term organised crime is a vague sort of catch-all concept that's become analytically useless, lumping fundamentally different activities under one unhelpful banner. Varèse's solution is to replace this term with a new precise taxonomy that disaggregates criminal enterprises based on their primary function. He proposes 3 distinct categories: production, trade, and governance. His central hypothesis, which Krimgov is designed to test globally, is that a criminal group's function determines its structure. So a trade type group, like a drug trafficking network, will have different organisational network structure, like centralised low clustering, and then a governance type group like traditional mafia, which might be more clustered and less centralised. The Krimgov project will build data sets on a global scale to test this, studying local cybercrime production hubs, the international trade of drugs from Colombia to Europe, and criminal governance in prisons. I hate it when I see coke busts. I really like sniffing coke, and I really just enjoy it, and I've done it since I was 13 years old. It's never done me any harm, and everyone I know takes it functionally. People who have jobs and families and careers, and it's really not that dangerous or harmful if taken in moderation in civilized society by people who read The Guardian and cut their tomatoes on a granite worktop. Doctors and solicitors and lawyers and fucking teachers and paramedics and do you know what I mean? It's it's not, forks are fucking dangerous if you stick it in your fucking head, but you're not going to do that, are you? Do you know what I mean? I don't never smoke crack. I have smoked crack, but a few times, but I don't touch crack and I don't touch heroin, and I don't even really drink or smoke weed very much. I do sometimes, but that's just because I've got older and my brain's not what it used to be. But like Europol and Interpol, when they nick people's Charlie, I always think it's shit, because it's just like, they're not really, same as like weed grows. Do you know what I mean? Everyone smokes puff. And you see these like TV shows where they like go and bust massive grows of weed. And it's like, you know, man, like my mum used to fucking grow weed. Like she got a little tent kit off eBay, and she was trying to pay back her nursing degree fund with, you know, 4 or 5 grand that she earned in the little tiny spare room we had in our house. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, she wasn't a fucking criminal. We smoked the weed. No one got fucking hurt. You know, no one crashed their car. No one spent their money. Like, it was no one beating their wife. It was just, you know, 90% of drug use is just completely safe, civilized, and in my opinion, should be a part of our community and our society. But, you know, there's this, that, you know, as long as prohibition exists, then, you know, the police have to waste their fucking time, persecute people who are not morally wrong in any way whatsoever. And that's like fucking shit, waste of time. But I'll put the link to that. It's called Intelligence Squared, Google versus debate. I'll put a link to that in the description. And this article, if you can't be fucked to watch me for like half an hour. Anyway, this project is the culmination of Perez's entire career. He spent 2 decades defining, analysing and popularising the governance dimension of organised crime. Now he's using resources of the ERC to formalise its concept, build a new universal framework for the entire field of criminology. Part 5, scholarly and public impact. So academic and scholarly recognition. Federico Ferres is one of the world's most decorated and recognised scholars in his field. His leadership is confirmed by major awards, significant grant funding and key editorial positions. So he won a Hewitt Book Prize in 2001, Outstanding Publication Award in 2012, and another one, Study of Organised Crime, for that one in 2011. Got some grants, got some editorial leadership positions in the British Journal of Criminology, and a scholarship, you know, that was prolifically published in the world's top tier social science and criminology journals, including Law and Society Review Archives, European de Sociologie, Rationality and Society, Political Studies, blah, blah, blah. Policy and public influence, a defining feature of Perez's career, is his role as a public intellectual, actively translating his complex academic research into policymakers and the general public's context. Policy impact. His research has had demonstrable real-world influence on government policies. His work on mafia migration, transplantation made substantial contributions to the restructuring of the UK's serious organised crime agency. So SOCA was, like, I think, abolished in 2013, and then it became the NCA. They operate like the FBI in the UK. They do nick people's drugs, though, which I don't really think is a very good thing to be doing. But sometimes they catch bad people as well, occasionally. It's a bit like the people who run the small boats, you know. Like, I don't know that they're really that criminal either. Like, people that are fleeing from the consequential narrative of our shit foreign policy from Gaza, like, I don't think that's too bad that we give them, like, you know, whatever, fucking tuppence halfpenny in benefits, like 50 quid a week, and a shit hotel room so they can watch fucking Homes Under the Hammer and A Place in the Sun and eat a Tesco meal deal in the bed while they cry with their children because, do you know what I mean? They've fucking lost half their family. It's just like, I'm not anti-immigration at all. And I don't know that those guys, you know, they do charge people exorbitant amounts. Like, they charge, like, some people are getting paid, you know, like 10, 15, 25, 35, 45 grand for, like, you know, a trip across the channel. Some people do that. It is extortionate in some cases. But really what they're doing is trying to help people start a new life, you know. And they're coming to a country where there's, you know, 5 million people wandering around the streets saying, free Palestine, you're fucking welcome here. You know, we're not Islamophobic and we don't agree with the genocide and we will help you. I really disagree with the government's, like, position today in the media, talking about asylum seekers not getting right to accommodation, and I haven't really, like, pored over it, but I you know, I just feel really kind of I feel really bad about that as a policy. Anyway, this dude's policy impact. So that it made substantial contributions to the restructuring of the UK's Serious Organised Crime Agency. That was years ago, that's 12 years ago, and it's been called upon to shape and inform policy debates on organised crime in Italy and Canada. It was commissioned by the European Parliament's Directorate General for Parliamentary Research Services to prepare a briefing paper providing an overall assessment of organised crime and corruption to support the work of the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, LIBE. Public commentary and writing. Varese is a prominent, sought-after expert for media analysts of major criminal events. His work is frequently featured in The Economist, BBC News and World Service, The Guardian, Newsweek and The New York Times. He also functions as a public-facing journalist and commentator in his own right, writing regular columns and opinion pieces for the Times Literary Supplement and in his native Italy for major daily newspapers such as La Repubblica, La Stampa and Weekly Internazionale, whatever you pronounce that, how, I don't know, fuck knows, crap at languages. And he regularly gives public lectures and interviews on his research, such as the widely cited commentary on the 2023 capture of Sicilian mafia boss Matteo Massimo Denaro. I'm going to move this tripod, right, so I can plug my phone in. It's got 15% battery. I don't want it to run out while I'm making this boring YouTube video that probably no one's ever going to watch, but there's that. In conclusion, the endorsement from Jean Le Carre serves as more than a simple book blurb. It's the most accurate analytical summary of Federico Varese's unique, impactful methodology. His career is defined by the rare ability to act as both a fearless fact hunter conducting deep empirical and often risky fieldwork and the dedicated academic applying relentless, detached and innovative social theory to make sense of his findings. The dual approach has allowed him to redefine the scholarly conversation on organised crime and establish himself as a preeminent authority in the field. So, what I'm going to do is just, actually, I've got fucking toothpaste all over my t-shirt. What a lovely man I am. I'm going to find that thing on Google. Intelligence Squared Drugs Debate Google versus videos. The world should legalise drugs. I think that is the one. I think it's longer than that though. This is the one. It's like quite old, and I can't watch it on the hospital Wi-Fi. But wait a second. Visit will work. I think this is the one. Let's have a look. It's got Richard Branson. He made some really good points.
Dr. Ronaldo Laranjera. That is our panel. Welcome to you all.
I think the other one was hosted by a different person, and it was longer.
So, we're going to hear our four speakers put their arguments for and against the motion, and then we will invite comments from the floor, from the audience here in Santiago.
When's it from? That's from 2015. This one was from like 2012. It's got the Richard Branson and also the President of Colombia. There you go. This one's 2 hours long. This is the one. So I will put a link to this, or you can just Google it like I have. This raises some like excellent questions on loads of topics, and whatever your persuasions, whether you think.
Good evening to all of you here in London, and to everyone that's joining us from around the world. I'm Jemima Khan from Intelligence Squared. Welcome to the first in our series of Google Plus versus debates organised by Intelligence Squared. I'm now going to go backstage where we'll be fielding questions from you in the audience and you on the web.
That was a different lady.
And now please welcome our chair for the evening, Emily Maitlis.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this is the one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank
her,
you.
Emily Maitlis, that's
Good
the one.
evening,
Yeah,
ladies and
this is
gentlemen.
the one,
Tonight,
this is
the big question
All right, anyway,
is whether
this
or
video's far
not
too long
we
now.
should be calling
44
an end
minutes.
to the war on drugs.
Watch this.
To debate this, we've assembled the cast the world needs to hear from. We have former presidents of nations on the front line of this war. We have leading spokesmen and women on the subject. We have Richard Branson, Louise Arbour, the former head of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Antonio Maria Costa. We have the actor, Russell Brand. We have the activist, Julian Assange. We have law...
I think it's about trying to find out and apprehend. God, I look like shit, don't I? Trying to find out and apprehend people who've done really bad things, rather than people who have transgressed sort of legislatory boundaries. You know, like you. I don't know. There are some laws which are just stupid and they shouldn't exist. And I think drug prohibition is one of them. There's loads of other laws I think are fucking stupid as well. I mean, like, if you look at the free man on the land movement, they basically revert to like the Magna Carta and common law. And so do anarchists. That's what they say, is effectively that you only need two laws in society. So everyone's got the right to do whatever they want to do. And no one's got the right to stop anyone else from doing what they want to do. So you can't cause harm or loss to persons or property. And as simple as that sounds, and as maybe short-sighted as it sounds, obviously it's like it's drive your Bugatti or your Lamborghini or your Bentley or your Roller down the road at 200 miles an hour. Like, you're not committing a crime until you actually have a road traffic incident. Do you know what I mean? So obviously legislation like the Highways Agency, BTP, and like Road Traffic Act, are there for a reason, but not all legislations and statutes are bullshit like the free man TPUC movement states. But I think that more people in our generation should be less acquiescent to the power of temptation and bad crime. I mean, knife and gun crime is like really shit. Human trafficking is really cruel, and sex trafficking is really cruel, and child sex trafficking is really cruel, and fraud is bad. Fraud is really shit. Stealing people's money that they've worked all their life for is fucking horrible. But phone call hacking. I'd love it if someone else could be on my team with that, because that was like, you can't get free Android call recorders anymore. I think that's, I look like fucking Nosferatu in this light. It's really hard to prove it, because you can't get call record. If you get a phone with Android 7, I bought a Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge in 2023, at the beginning of 2023. If you just get a normal Android phone, right, and you get it reflashed at a nicked phone shop back to Android 7, then you can run call recorders on like Android, the free call recording apps. But otherwise, unless you live in the States, it's like native on Samsung phones. Probably there's about a 1 in 50,000 chance that you're a victim of phone call redirection. But if you are, try and gather a bit of evidence. I mean, nobody at the police station or a psychiatric hospital or the 3 store or the Samsung store or the Apple store will believe you, and they'll tell you that you need psychiatric help because you think the people on the phone are like not real, or they're like ganging up on you or something like this. But so rough today. I haven't had enough sleep. My face is like fucking sagging off my skull. Anyway, lovely people, thanks for watching. Fuck this fucking garbling bullshit. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll leave a link to that thing to watch, and I'll wish you a very good evening from the Lodge, Signet Kew, Stoke, Weston-super-Mare. Cheers.